Hello, fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our end of the year lists. We have so much to talk about from 2024, and this video is probably one of the favorite ones everyone likes to watch. This is our most disappointing. I almost said anticipated. That was an episode we already did. This is our most disappointing films of 2024. I'm Sean Wasberg. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. Now, let's preface this like we do every time we talk about most disappointed. Disappointed doesn't necessarily mean we hated the movie. Disappointed.
We might hate some of them, but
for my case, a lot of them. But it means that it just did not reach our expectations that we held for them throughout the year, such as like what we did, our most anticipated films of 2025, where we have movies that are very high up on our anticipation list. These movies did not meet our expectations, therefore we are disappointed in them. So this is more of a lively video. Some anger might come out during this video because we are still, the wounds are still fresh on some of these. But nonetheless, these are not necessarily the worst films of the year, but it is the films that we are the most angry at. We can be angry at shitty films, but we knew they were going to be shitty when we watched them. These are the ones that I'm not mad. I'm just fucking disappointed in you. We did something a little different this year. Normally, we do like our 5 most disappointing, and we usually have honorable mentions, but we usually stick it to a hard 5. Because Disappointed is going to have its own video this year, we're doing a top 10. And what the sad part was, didn't have a hard time finding 10 movies that disappointed me this year. That makes it even sadder. I will say I'm not that upset at it's like my 10 going up to like my 1. It's like, I'm not mad. It's just, damn it. And it's like angrier, fucking furious. Fuck you. So as we get further, I'm going to get more animated with these films. But how were you this year? Did you have a lot of epic disappointments for you, or is it just kind of a meh year for you?
I don't know if I had any epic disappointments. There are films that definitely disappointed me. I don't think that any of them, just taking a glance at it, I don't know if any of them I qualify as making me angry. Like, especially my top couple disappointments were ones that, I'm not angry at all. I'm just like, oh, this isn't what I wanted it to be, kind of thing. That being said, there's some movies in here that are bad. There's some movies in here that are okay, but not great. And there's some movies that are still good, just not as good as I want them to be.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you kick us off with, now, well, we are going to change this up a little bit as well. Normally if and I'll just throw a movie out there that I know is probably not on our list. Fall Guy. We're both not disappointed in that movie. We both fucking love that movie. But if that was high up on my list and low on Brian's list, we're not going to go, I'll talk about that later. If he brings it up or if I bring it up and it's high up, we're just going to fucking talk about it all together at once. No more of talking about it and then 15, 20 minutes talking about it.
Mine aren't even necessarily ranked. I'm going to save my kind of biggest ones for the end, but otherwise I'm not even really ranked on mine.
Yeah, so my ranking is just in terms of least disappointed to the most disappointed. So you can call that a ranking, but we're going to be talking about everything together now instead of kind of breaking it off. So that's just kind of the new format we're going with. I don't know his list. He doesn't know my list. So we may talk about a lot of the same things. We may not talk about any of the same things and have 20 different films that we're all, I feel like we're probably going to have some crossover. But let's go ahead and get started off. What is your first film for your disappointed?
My first one is the 4:30 movie. Now, this is a movie that I kind of had hoped was going to be Kevin Smith's return to form. Because, back in the days when he was doing his, View Askew universe and even Jersey Girl, which I loved, and a couple other movies, Zack and Miri I enjoyed. I really liked all those comedies he made. But then he started making, he made Cop Out. And then he started doing films that weren't necessarily even like his style of comedy. He was doing like Red State and Tusk. And then Yoga Hosers, which he basically just made so he could cast his daughter in a film, things like that. And this was going to be the one that I would hope was going to kind of, bring him back. It's going to be a very personal film. It's going to be his youth and the days when he was theater hopping and stuff like that. But then when I actually saw it, it's like he was his references and all the dialogue was more forced than ever. It was like back from his first movies when it was felt very unnatural and forced when he tried to shove stuff in there. I think that the scenes where he tries to get all sentimental are just kind of laughably bad and over the top and melodramatic. And so for me, this is one of those where It's not the worst movie I saw this year. I don't even think it wouldn't make my top 10 worst movies of the year, but it's just really disappointing, mostly because like I wish we had the old Kevin Smith back, but when he tries to do it, he gets in his own way, and they aren't nearly as good as they used to be.
Yeah, I remember being excited for this movie when I saw the trailer because it did look like something new, something unique that we haven't gotten from him in a while. But I didn't get to see it right when it came out, and you did, and you immediately were like, "Yeah, dude, don't even waste your time with this movie." So I didn't, and I've not seen this movie, so I really can't add anything to this because I did not see the film at all. But
Yeah, what's your first one?
my first one was one that was on your anticipated in 2024, and your excitement for it made me excited for it. And it just did not match the expectations that we held for, and that was Boy Kills World. It was one of those movies that we were just anticipatively waiting for in 2024 with Bill Skarsgård. He had a few movies, this and The Crow, coming out, but this was the one that we were actually excited to see. It looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. It's kind of like in a post-apocalyptic, well, not post-apocalyptic, but kind of like in the future. You know, you have this like family that kind of runs this town. Yeah, exactly. He's a mute, but he has like the voice of, and I think it's was it John H. Benjamin is his name, or H. John Benjamin. I know him as Archer, or people might know him as Bob from Bob's Burgers. In his head, being his internal dialogue, which I thought was like perfect because I fucking love H. John Benjamin. And then you have the brutality of the action because he uses like fucking swords and shit. And then you also have Jessica Roth from like Happy Death Day, and I always say his name, Charlito Copley.
Charlton Copley.
Charlton. I always say his name wrong. Isaiah Mustafa, Famke Janssen, like a solid cast in this film. And it just, first off, the first 10 minutes really kind of set it in an off like kilter for me. I really was not a fan of how the movie started out. And then everything after that was like fine, but not really entertaining. I just kind of spent myself just kind of watching it and not really enjoying it. Now, the last act got, a lot more fun because it got a little more brutal and gory. But even then, it got to certain points where it kind of started to take me out of the movie because there's certain parts where it's like, well, that person would have died a long time ago. Or how is he not hurt from this? Or how is he powering through this kind of injury? He would have been like severely injured or hurt, but he's still powering through. And you have, suspend that disbelief kind of thing. And it's just, by the end of the movie, it just never got out of second gear for me. Like, it was okay. It was fine, but it just didn't match the expectation, or I think the fun level that you and I were hoping, which was kind of like a boss level Guns Akimbo kind of thing. And it just never matched that.
I mean, I liked it. I rewatched it just this past week or two, and I actually think I enjoyed it more the second time. So
I haven't watched this since the first time, so I really can't defend it or talk about it further than that. Yeah. Okay. What was your next one?
My next disappointment is a shitty movie, and that is Longlegs. Longlegs is a film that I had no expectations for because I didn't know really anything about it. But then I saw that they had a whole marketing campaign. It's one of those guerrilla marketing campaigns they haven't really done in a long time. It's kind of like, it's very mysterious. You don't know what the movie's about. There's like, symbols and the people, communities online were getting together to try and decode the symbols and find out what stuff meant. And it was just more marketing messages, of course. But it's, I kind of got involved in that kind of thing. They used to do back in the days for like, Blair Witch Project and some of these other things. And the atmosphere of the trailer, it had a great tone to it. I thought this is gonna be creepy, it's gonna be awesome. And I went and saw this movie, and this is just fucking shit. First of all, you had Nicolas Cage going beyond full Nicolas Cage with a stupid ass look to him and prosthetics, and they're using this dumb voice he's using through the whole movie. You have Maika Monroe, who can act. I know Sean doesn't like certain movies she's in, but she has been able to act in some movies. But here she's acting like she's an alien the entire movie. I swear it's like and I kept waiting for them to explain like something happened to her, something was wrong with her, or she wasn't. But no, it's just a choice they made to make her act like an idiot. But so this is a movie that it's my own fault because I built up, from the trailers and that my anticipation, not expecting to be the best movie of the year or something, but expecting something kind of new and something good. Is this A24? It feels like
I don't think it is, but
but
keep going. I'll look it up.
But it's one of those movies that like I kind of, built up in my head, and I thought, what, I think I'm gonna actually really like this one, and it just really disappointed me because I came out of that film honestly kind of angry. I almost walked out of the movie. I think I'd walked in the side hallway to check my phone for something while
You
it was
texted me.
going.
You texted me during it.
And Sean texted me, and I told him I was almost gonna walk out, and you're like, oh, he hasn't even gotten to the worst part yet.
Yeah, no, it was a neon.
Neon. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's the other one that sucks. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Longlegs, I didn't dislike the film, but it is wildly overrated. It's
dreadfully boring too.
It was interesting. Kimberly and I watched this together. We both thought it was interesting, but it took a long time to kind of get the fucking ball rolling with this. And then like the last 45 minutes were like, hey, we're gonna make this supernatural. And it's like you waited a little too long for this to happen. Now they can say, oh, we'll sprinkle throughout the fucking movie. And it's like, yes, there's a good way to sprinkle stuff throughout the movie, like Hereditary, where it's like if you watch it a second time, you start to pinpoint that shit. In this, it's like, oh, there's a shadow over there. That's the devil. And it's like, okay, I can rewatch this movie and I'm still not going to see it. If you're going to make it that hard for us to notice, then it's not good. It's just shitty. Nick Cage, it didn't really bother me what he was doing in the movie. It's just Nick Cage doing Nick Cage shit, which at least brought some fucking life to the movie. I exclaimed to Brian when we were talking about this, I was like, I didn't realize Bill Clinton was such a fucking focal point in this movie, because Bill Clinton's face was like a huge focal point in the office of the oh god, what was his name? Fucking cop. Blair Underwood. Yeah, I was like, fucking Blair Underwood of all people. Like, dude, I thought you stopped acting like decades ago, and here you are in this movie. But yeah, Monroe, they kind of explain why she is that way in the movie. It's because of the fucking doll. But even then, it's like they rushed that supernatural shit at the end. It felt very tacked on.
Even if I was able to enjoy it as a crime thriller, it just took a supernatural left turn in like the last 10 minutes. Like, what the fuck?
And then it just ends. Like, that's what I told you. I was like, right when it actually started to get fucking interesting, it ends. And he was like, wait, whoa. Like, that's how you end this? Oh man, fuck this movie. Everyone's like, this is the best movie of the year. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm like, no. And then you watch it, I was like, oh, Brian's gonna fucking hate this. But yeah, it's not on my disappointed, because I didn't build that expectation. It was just more like, okay, cool, I got to see this movie. And then I was like, yeah, I shouldn't have even gotten excited for this. Like, I should have known better. But I didn't get to that level of Brian, of hate level that he got to it. But yeah, this movie like pissed Brian the fuck off. My next one was probably my first, if not my no, it was definitely my first disappointment of the year. And it was on your list at the half-year mark, so it may still be on here. So you may be talking about this one, and that is Book of Clarence.
Yep.
Yeah. James Samuel. This is his second film. His first film, The Harder They Fall, was our movie of the year back in, was it 2019, 2021, something like that. It was so stylish. It was so colorful and clever and fun and very well shot. Everything about the movie worked so well. So we realized he was going to be doing the Book of Clarence. And just, now granted, like I said, I'm not a religious dude by any means. So having this kind of be like a religious story about, having like this guy try to mock becoming like a messiah, so that way he can like, con everyone. Not necessarily my wheelhouse of what I want to watch, but it's James Samuel. He holds a lot of weight with me because of The Harder They Fall. Plus, you have Lakeith Stanfield, who I enjoy, Omar Sy, R.J. Seiler, David Alio, and also Alfred Woodard and James McAvoy. I like the cast that we got here. I feel like this movie it didn't really know what it wanted to be. Like, it wanted to be serious, it wanted to be funny, but they could never get the tones to match up at the same time. You would either have a serious film with no fun, or a fun film that lacked any serious tone, and then you were supposed to just buy into both sides of it without really a congruent like wave to connect them together. So it just felt like two different kinds of films. I didn't hate it by any means, but it just felt uneven the whole way through. RJ Cyler, though, phenomenal performance in the movie, and even Lakeith Stanfield was great in the film. I think James McAvoy really should have been in the movie way more than what he was, because he was great in the small role that we got him in. But at the end of the day, it's more of a disappointment, not because the movie was bad. It's because we put James Samuel on such a high pedestal after Harder They Fall, and he just could not come close to it with Book of Clarence, and that's just why it was on the list.
Yeah, this is a movie that it's really, like you said, it's not a bad movie. It's based on our expectations. It was definitely a big disappointment. And I think for me, most of that part is it doesn't have nearly the style of that first film, of The Harder They Fall. It doesn't have the, the kind of cool characters and things like, there's certain scenes they try to have like these cool, speeches or moments of dialogue. But this one doesn't come close to living up to it. And I think you already said, its tone is all over the place. I mean, is it a comedy?
Yeah.
Is it a drama? In the beginning, it's mocking religion, and then all of a sudden, at the end, it's kind of almost trying to be, promoting religion. And you're like, I don't know where this film is going, but it's just not what I wanted.
Yeah. What was your next one?
My next one.
Are you going to count that as one, and then I'm going to go again?
Whichever.
Go ahead.
This is another one I think was already on my list at the half-year mark. And that is Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa Frankenstein is a film that I guess I shouldn't necessarily have huge expectations for it, but it's written by Diablo Cody, who's done a lot of things that I really enjoy. I like her kind of the flavor of her kind of comedy and the way she uses dialogue. She's very sharp in her writing, things like that. It's the directing debut, I believe, of Rob Williams' daughter, Zelda Williams. And it stars Catherine Newton, who we've liked in a lot of stuff. Carla Gugino's in there, of course. But this is a movie that, it looked like it was going to have kind of that retros kind of 80s vibe that's, been real popular for a long time now with things like The Guest and, some of these other movies. And I went into this movie kind of looking forward to the style, looking forward to the tone of it. And I was just bored by it. Like the jokes all completely missed. And it's like, I don't know. I think it has to almost be in the direction, because Diablo Cody her writing can't have gone downhill that fast, can it have, from the movie she was making to now?
It could. It's been a while.
But the jokes weren't working. I think there's nothing believable about the relationships. I think that Cole Sprouse was not very good at all as, the Frankenstein's monster, basically, of this movie. And it's a movie that I should have loved, just based on, kind of the style it was going for and the era it was going for. But it didn't work for me. The one redeeming factor in this movie was Liza Soberano, who plays like her, I believe it was like her stepsister.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was phenomenal. I hope she goes on to do a lot more things. I did love the kind of relationship there, because a lot of times that she could have been like, the foil, the antagonist, the mean girl of this, but she's not. She's like, I like that she had actual positive relationship, with her step siblings and stuff like that. But I thought she did a great job. But otherwise, this movie just disappoints me. I haven't rewatched it since, and probably never will.
Yeah, I agree. This was one that I wasn't as excited for, because I've never really been. I'm fine with Diablo Cody, but I'm not like, oh, Diablo Cody, like a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was more intrigued this more by Kathy Newton. And because it reminded me of some like 90s comedies, like My Boyfriend's Back and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, we're doing this retro kind of story, which I was totally there for. And this was another movie, once again, it's about the tone. Like I couldn't, like, it was like, are we going full on comedy, or are we going to horror with this? Because the horror felt like very much horror, and the comedy felt very much comedy, but they didn't mix well. And that's two genres that should go together very fucking easily. And when they tried to force them together, it just either one felt off. It just didn't work. The jokes just weren't that good to begin with. Carla Gugino, who I love in everything, she's playing like the most unlikable character, which she's doing her fucking job in this movie. But that's also just not the character I want to see Carla Gugino play by any means. Catherine Newton, I knew this movie was gonna was going to be very rough, literally from the get-go, because they established a storyline about her mother and how she's like murdered by like a serial killer, axe murderer kind of thing. And you're like, okay, well, that's going to come back to something. No, that was literally there just to establish Captain Newton's character. And I was just like, that felt very unneeded. Like you could have just said that. You didn't have to shoot a scene for it, because it just kept feeling like anytime you watch a movie and you have something like that, you're like, that's going to come back. Let's remember this. That's going to come back. It never comes back. And you're just waiting for it to come back. And it never fucking does. But the movie I don't think it really knew what it wanted to do. And that's partly because of the writing of Diablo Cody. I just didn't know what film we were going for with this. Catherine Newton, I think, is trying her best in the film, but even she can't say this. Cole Sprouse, if they would have let him actually talk in the movie, I think it would have helped him a lot more than him just going the whole fucking time. But I do agree that the one good thing was Liza Soberano, because I agree her relationship with Catherine Newton in the movie was the highlight. It was the best part of the film. But even then, it's almost like we got accustomed to it being so good, and then they were like, well, you guys like this too much, we're throwing it out for the rest of the movie. You don't get to see it anymore. And it's like, that was like the one thing that was actually making us like enjoy the film, was this relationship. And then as soon as they brought in Cole Sprouse, they just kind of threw that whole dynamic out the window. And it just was a very uneven film. It was on my worst list for a long time, but luckily enough, some other movies came around and knocked it off the fucking list. But definitely was not a good movie overall.
What do you got next?
Yes. My next one was both on our list at the half-year review. I don't know if it's still on your list, but this was a movie that we had very high expectations for, and that was Self-Reliance. Did it bump off yours, or it's still there?
It's not on my list. No, there were some other disappointments that bumped it off.
Yeah.
Still disappointed by it, but it's
Jake Johnson, it's his was this his directorial debut?
I think he'd done some short films, but I'll check it out. You go ahead and talk.
But yeah, Jake Johnson, this was his first film, actually.
Okay.
We love him as an actor, New Girl, Into the Spider-Verse, Let's Be Cops. Like, he's just a very funny dude. He has so much fun. And when we saw the dynamic of what this film was going to be, which is basically a guy decides to basically join this game where he's offered $1 million to play basically the prey to these hunters who are going to try to kill him. But the rule is they can only kill him when he's by himself. And he has to last 30 days. And if he can, he wins $1 million. And he's like, hey, this is easy. I'll just make sure there's someone around me all the time. And he realizes it's a lot fucking harder, than it really is to keep someone around you 24/7. When we saw the concept of this film and this trailer, knowing that Jake Johnson was going to be in this, we're like, oh, this is going to be fucking hilarious. And then you add Anna Kendrick, who we both love. And this looked like, on paper, you also have Andy Samberg, Emily Hampshire, who I love, and Natalie Morales, who I also really enjoy. Mm-hmm. This, on paper, looked like this was going to be a fucking fun film and just antics galore about these guys trying to kill Jake and him running for his lives. What we didn't realize we were going to get was a psychological drama about a guy who is internally damaged from a past relationship.
Yeah, and just an allegory for codependency. Yeah,
exactly. It was a whole thing about codependency. And then, like, the way they wrote Anna Kendrick's character, and then they just completely dropped her character off out of the movie. And then, like, the whole
we only had Anna for 2 days, so we can't use her that much.
Exactly. And then, like, the final 15 minutes that they went with the character, it just got sad. And that was not the movie we were expecting. We were expecting a fun, hilarity film, and this was more like a sad, dramatic, just depression film about a guy whose heart got broken and he couldn't get over the breakup, so he was willing to put his life on the line to win $1 million. But it was more not about the money; it's just that way he could like feel alive and finish something. And it just was not enjoyable. And for someone from Jake Johnson, we just expected fun, and we didn't get it.
Well, and my thing is, if Jake Johnson, or if anybody, but especially even a comedic actor like Jake Johnson, wants to make a film that's more dramatic, that's more introspective, whatever it is, do that. But don't make a trailer that lies to your audience to get them to come expecting one movie, because you're just setting them up to hate your movie.
Because if you do watch that trailer, it does look like the movie that we thought we were going to get.
It looks like Guns Akimbo,
Yeah,
practically.
it does. It looks like it's going to be a fun film where he's being chased, and his buddy who's going to be, I'll stay with you 24/7. Then he goes to take a shit, and he left him alone. And here's this ninja dude coming down the street. It looks funny. It's not funny. It's very sad and depressing. What was your next one?
My next one is one of those movies that makes me wonder why I occasionally decide to trust A24, and that's Civil War. This is another one that, it is the trailer that sold me on it. We watched this trailer, I'm like, that's a cool concept, and I'm curious to see, where they go with this and what it's like in this world when the America is basically split in two. But then you go see the movie, and first of all, you're just following these photographers around the entire movie, or these journalists. There's very little actual action in it, which is fine. But again, the trailer pitched it as like all this action going on when it's all basically the same two scenes. And it's just like they don't do a good job at all of giving you any kind of explanation of, what's going on or how we got to the point we're at, or why, California and Texas would team up with each other and things like that. And you're just like, so you're left wondering, like, I have no idea what's going on in this world. And in some movies, they drop you into this world and it's supposed to be like that. You're like, I don't know anything more than the characters know. But in this movie, the characters know what's going on. So you need to let us know what's going on, because otherwise we can't sympathize with them and understand their actions if we don't know what they're reacting to. So there's that. And then the whole fact that, instead of, the whole Civil War aspect of it, it could have been like this, cautionary commentary on, like, the divisiveness of modern politics, but it's not. It's just, and actually it there's parts of the movie where it almost seems to like embrace it and promote, the idea of people rising up against the government, especially in the ending. So I'm like, I don't know what this movie's message is, because it is just kind of all over the place. So yeah, this is just one that, I was expecting one movie, I got a different movie, and was just really disappointed.
Yeah, this was also on my list. Like we were talking about on our most anticipated, I love Alex Garland as a director. I think visually he's got one of the most beautiful eyes when it comes to shooting shots. If you look at Annihilation, for example, it's one of the most beautiful sci-fi horror films in recent memory. Just the way every shot is a wallpaper of how beautiful it is. And Civil War, I was excited to see what he was going to do with it. I wasn't crazy about the cast. I don't think either one of us was. Kirsten Dunst being the lead, Kaylee Spaney, which I know you're not a fan of. I had no problem with her, but those are the two main leads. But that was the main problem with the movie, is everything you're kind of saying, is that it would be one thing. Usually when we are thrown into a film and the world is already happening, eventually you're going to have an exposition scene that's going to catch us up, explain to us what's going on. This movie decided, no, fuck that. We're not going to give you that. So you're just going to have to go along with whatever the fuck's going on. But they're not going to explain anything. They're not going to explain why the Civil War happened. Like you said, why is Texas and California working together? And then it's just basically there's like 3 wars going on between them and the North, the South, and what have you. And instead of showing us the actual war aspects of this, we're just following these very dry, not really great characters in these photographers. And outside of like 3 really good scenes, there's not really a whole lot to go on. Visually, I mean, it's how it's going.
That they pushed in the trailer.
Exactly. Like it doesn't look bad by any means. Like, it looks good. When we get to that final third act scene where it's like the march onto the White House and stuff, or I don't think it was even the White House, but like that looks great. But the story around it, the cast, the acting, none of the acting's bad. It's just dull. It's boring. And I wanted to be thrown into this world. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to learn what was happening. But the movie said, "Nah, fuck you. Just stay with what these characters." I'm like, yeah, but if you don't make me care about why things are happening, then I'm just watching these characters walk around and take pictures, and I don't care about these characters. Make me care about this world. And you're not making me care. And that was a huge, huge disappointment. And there's people out here like, oh my God, this was revolutionary. Explain to me what was revolutionary about it, because I'm sorry, we didn't get much of a story. Now, there's a story about the photographers, but I didn't give a shit about the story about these photographers. I wanted to know about the Civil War, this war that was happening in the U.S. That's the story we cared about. You know what story we didn't get? that fucking story. Instead, we got Kaylee Spaney, who was infatuated by Kirsten Dunst because she's this like awesome war photographer, and that was the story we got. And that's the one story that I think fucking no one wanted to see in this entire film. But yeah.
What's next for you?
My next one. Now, granted, a lot of people is probably on a lot of people's worst lists. Not either of ours. Because the movie's not good. It's not good. It's definitely not one of the worst of the year, but it definitely should have been better than what it was. And this was the video game film Borderlands.
Oh.
I love Borderlands. I've played every single game. I enjoy the hell out of these games. They're fun, they're violent, they're funny, and I have a lot of fun playing them. When they announced that we were going to get a movie out of this, I was like, I don't know how that's going to work. Then we got the trailer, and I was like, actually, well, first off, they announced that Eli Roth was directing, and I maybe went, fuck. Because I don't like Eli Roth as a director. I've never liked a single one of Eli Roth's films. I don't like the way he directs. I don't like the way he directs his actors. But I felt the same way about Guy Ritchie, and he's been winning me over. So I'm going to give Eli Roth the benefit of the doubt because it's Borderlands. I liked the cast. Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, is it Ariana Greenblatt?
Yes.
Yeah, Ariana Greenblatt. Florian Montanou from Creed. Edgar Ramirez, Jamie Lee Curtis, Gava Condor. I never say her first name right. Janina. And of course, geez. Jack Black. Yeah, and of course, Jack Black as Claptrap, which I thought was perfect casting. First trailer comes out. It looks like an R-rated Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm not mad at that. And then they go, oh, wait. Didn't they drop this down to PG-13? I can't remember.
It apparently was never going to be R. That was just...
Yeah, but
the audience
it's like,
wanted to be R, but he was always contracted apparently to make PG-13.
But it's like Borderlands is an R-rated... That's an R-rated game. It should be an R-rated film. But it looked very much like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is like, you know what? That can work, you know? And then you watch the movie, and it's not egregiously awful, but it's also not memorable at all. Like, I watched it, and I just kind of watched it like the whole time. I wasn't laughing. I wasn't like enjoying it. There's a couple moments where I'm like, that was a lot like the game. Like that, you know, that was shot well. And then I'd go another 20 minutes of just no reaction to, oh yeah, okay, that looks solid. And then the movie just kind of ends at that point. It was like, it wasn't actively bad. A lot of people like say call it like completely garbage piece of shit film and stuff like that. There's another one I'm going to be talking about a little bit later where people are doing that for that as well, and it's not as bad as what they make it out to be. But it never reached what Borderlands could have been. This movie could have been so much more than what it was. And I think that movie with this cast could still be that film. Get rid of Eli Roth, make it R-rated, and I feel like that this could work, but they'll never get the chance to, sadly.
Yeah, it did make my list only because I didn't go in with, I didn't have high expectations of it. Not that I thought it would necessarily be bad, but I didn't have really any expectations because while I'm familiar with the game, I'm not, not real knowledgeable about it. I played it, I think a little bit of the first one is all. So for me, I just kind of went in. It was, like you said, I thought it was okay. I was like, I didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's just kind of like, forgot about it.
Yeah.
All right. My next one is where I thought you were going with this, because this is another movie that is not one of the worst movies of the year. A lot of people really hate this and call it the worst movie of the year, if not of like the decade or all time, whatever, because they like hyperbole. But it should have been so much better than it was, and that is Kraven the Hunter.
That was the other movie I said I was going to be talking about later.
Well, there you go.
Well,
So Kraven the Hunter is one that, we held out hope for, because Aaron Taylor Johnson, especially when he's in like, badass mode, whether it be, in the movie Savages or Bullet Train or whatever else he does. I think that he was a great choice for this role, and he looks great in this role, and he's innocent in this movie. Honestly, it's the directing and the writing and the editing what made this movie what it's choppy as hell. It's much of it's nonsensical. I think that some of the action is even directed very badly, and the CG of him like scaling up walls just looks kind of ridiculous. And there's so many things that are wrong with this movie, but none of them are Aaron Taylor Johnson, in my opinion. He does fine. But this movie was very disappointing because, I mean, when everyone was saying, these Spider-Verse films, the non-Spider-Man Spider-Verse films,
yeah,
that Sony's pumping out, they all suck and they're getting worse and worse and worse. And we're like, well, no, let's not lump them all together. Let's judge this movie on its own merits and not just, assume that this is going to suck because the rest of them suck. And this one comes out and it's better than Madam Web. In my opinion, it's better than the Venom movies, but that's because I have a low opinion of the Venom movies. And then Morbius, I won't get into that because I actually kind of enjoyed Morbius, but most people don't. But this movie's not good, and we had hella hope. We were defending it, being like, "No, this one's going to be the good one," and it just wasn't. I mean, it was honestly mostly just kind of dull and boring through the whole movie, and they tried to shove in too many villains, and it just had so many problems. It's like now I get why they kept pushing back the release dates. They're like, we have to release it eventually, and then finally it's like, okay, here you go.
And then released it like Christmas.
Yeah.
That still makes no goddamn sense to me. Yeah, this was a movie that conned the shit out of Brian and I. We were championing and holding a torch for Kraven the Hunter for the better part of 2 years because of Aaron Taylor Johnson, because we will defend our boys and our women as much as we can when we feel like that they are in a movie that could work. Madam Web we knew was going to be dog shit when it came out, and guess what? It was dog shit. We knew Morbius was going to be that bad. You ended up liking it more so than I did. We both are not fans of the Venom films. I love Venom, the character. I hate the Venom films. I put Kraven equal to, if not maybe slightly better than the Venoms, which technically makes it the best Sony film, Spider-Verse Sony film. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't hate Kraven. It's not good, but it's not one of the worst fucking films of the year. I'm not going to completely devoid Aaron Taylor Johnson of any faults in this, because he does have one problem in this movie. Because he does do the, like, I can't remember what his fucking name is in this movie. I'm talking about his real name, not Kraven. Sergey. I'm Sergey. But then when he screams or gets in, he sounds like Kick-Ass. He don't fucking go back and rewatch it. He's like, there's so many times when he actually is like getting flung or thrown, or like when he's chasing after the guys who kidnap his brother. He's yelling and he sounds like Kick-Ass. I'm like, dude, have you not changed your voice? Like, you can't be, I'm Sergey Kraven the Hunter. I'm a badass motherfucker. Kick-Ass. And there's like, I would hear it. And I was like, oh my God, dude, they couldn't have changed your voice up because you sound like, you're this wimpy dude in the green suit. Outside of when his voice would raise and he would sound like, Kick-Ass, I thought he was good in the movie. Russell Crowe's fine in what he does in the film. He's not asked to do a whole lot, but I think what he does in it is serviceable. I'm going to be talking about this actor a little bit later in another movie, but Fred Huschinger, as Demi, is it Dimitri or Demi? It was like, it was Dimitri. He just calls him Demi. What a little bitch throughout this film. And then what they end up making him by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't buy that. He's not going to become that kind of, like, the whole through the movie is like, is this character going to become that character? Yes, he fucking is. All right, well, it's a good thing this franchise is ending because I do not want to see him in anything else. This guy is quickly becoming someone I don't want to see on camera. Ariana DeBose.
He's in like movies this year, and I'm not sure why they're trying to make him such a big deal because I don't think he's a great actor. Like, I realized after the fact when I was looking up stuff about the movie that he was in the Fear Street movies, and I was like, yeah, he was fine in those. But I don't think he's good.
He was fine in those because they were in his wheelhouse of acting.
Right.
This and Gladiator 2 are not his fucking wheelhouse by any means.
Do you want to just roll into that since you're going to talk about it?
I mean, I can going into the next one. But Ariana DeBose, she was not great in this film. She's just not been making good movie choices since West Side Story. She wins the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, and she has not done a good movie really since.
It's called Catwoman syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you've got Alessandro Nivola.
Oh, Rhino is so fucking awful.
Oh, my God. And it's not even... Once he's Rhino, that's honestly the best part of the movie for him. It's everything up to that point where he's just like, and I'm going to creep like I'm a cheetah, and I'm going to what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, what? I remember you from Face Off, and you were fine in that. I know you're a competent actor. You're fucking god awful in this goddamn. Every time he's on screen, he feels like he needs to go Nick Cage on everything. It isn't until he's the actual fucking Rhino that he's actually matching. Like, okay, he's in a lot of pain. He's allowed to be like this. But then at the very end, when he loses, he basically does a Scooby-Doo. Does he not? Oh, I wish I never met you people. It's like that was his final lines in the movie. It was like, I would have got away with it if it was for you rascally kids. He literally fucking has a line like that in this fucking film. It's ridiculous. The action sequences I thought were okay, nothing special, nothing great. I actually did like the Kraven Rhino battle at the end. I thought that actually was shot decently with the wildebeest or whatever they were running around. I actually liked that. But it's not the worst fucking thing in the world. There's still a movie called Madam Web out there, guys. Don't even put Kraven even in the same fucking hemisphere as Madam Web. I don't know what it is about Sony. What the fuck is with them in ADR? Because the ADR in this is really bad also. It's not Madam Web bad.
It's their own voices, though.
Exactly. There's literally the one part where I think Ariana DeBose is like walking away from Kraven, and you can tell her voice is not in the same room as them. Like, she's talking like that. You guys went with that? Like, you can tell she's not that. Like, you're seeing the back of her head, but you can tell that voice is not from that room. Yeah. Like, it's atrociously bad at certain points, but it isn't the worst fucking thing in the world. But we carried a torch for this movie for so fucking long to get this. The word disappointment does not even equate. Just angry.
It's like we defended you, and this is what you gave us.
You were the chosen one. You were supposed to balance it, not destroy it. You fucking did this, Kraven. And I feel like this is gonna hurt Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's the one thing you said we wanted. It's like, don't let this hurt Aaron Taylor Johnson's chances of getting James Bond or anything else big, because Kraven the Hunter is the one thing that's gonna fuck him over. And I'm afraid it's going to. I'm afraid he's not gonna get Bond now because of this thing. But if he's gonna be screaming like fucking kick-ass throughout the whole fucking film, I don't know if I want him to be Bond. He needs to get that. You basically need to be. I can't remember if he's Lemon or Tangerine, and I think he's Lemon. He needs to be Lemon from Bullet Train. If he's Lemon or Tangerine, then he's Bond. If he's Kraven, you're not Bond, bro. But anyway, I'll roll this into my next one. It's not necessarily in my order, but Gladiator 2. This movie just outright made me angry while watching it. I'm gonna try not to yell when I'm talking about these movies, but this movie had no business being made. It did not need to come back. I don't think you ruined Gladiator like another film I'm gonna be talking about did. But god damn it, man. Like, you guys sure went out of your way to try to make you guys not love Gladiator as much as you could have. Because Gladiator 2 was just... It just didn't work, dude. If it was a movie about a guy who got thrown into slavery and it was trying to overtake the Roman Empire, you know, like a Spartacus kind of thing, fine. That would work. But for one half of the movie, you guys basically were trying to do Gladiator remake. And then the second half of the film, it became Denzel Washington's training day of overtaking Rome. I'm not against seeing that movie, but I'm not foreseeing half one film being this and then the other half being this. There's so many stupid decisions that happen in this movie that make no fucking sense. None of the Gladiator scenes are that good or even memorable compared to the first film. Fucking Paul Mescal.
Bland as
God
shit.
damn, man. Paul Mescal. Go, Brian, help me out.
I just find him completely bland as shit. And he's one of those names you starting to become raised as like, he's gonna be the next big thing. And it's like, I hope not, because
he's the male version of Sydney Sweeney. Everyone sees it, you and I don't. we just don't see it. I don't understand it. There's never a point in this movie where I felt he could be even Kmart Russell Crowe. I never bought into his character the whole fucking film. I didn't buy into the other characters being into his character throughout the film. There's points where these gladiators are willing to die and fall for, and follow him and shit, but there's never a point in this movie that you see why these gladiators do want to follow him. In the first film, Russell Crowe, they showed why they would follow Maximus to their deaths. He earned their respect. He earned their loyalty. Paul Mescal's character, Lucius, did not do that. And also, making Lucius his fucking son served no purpose to the film. It was not needed in the fucking film. It didn't have to be Lucius. It could have just been any character. It didn't have to be Lucius. Because, I'm sorry, the actor who played Lucius in Gladiator would not have grown up to look like Paul Mescal. It's just not... Come on, guys. If you're
Spencer Treat Clark.
Yeah, exactly. Just get Spencer in here and have him do it again. He still wouldn't have made this movie good, but there's no way Spencer turns into Paul Mescal. The most interesting part of the movie were the Caesars, even though I just shit on him for Kraven. But Joseph Quinn and Fred Hershinger, they're the most interesting parts of this movie, and they were barely in the film. Denzel, like I said, he's basically playing Training Day Denzel. I'm not mad at it, but he also was in a different movie from everyone else in the fucking film. He would come on screen and everyone's acting Rome, Gladiator, Rome, and he's fucking
my man.
My man. And
post him down, even though horses don't exist yet. Cool.
Exactly. I'm fine with it, but it made everyone always felt uncomfortable around him in the scenes, and I almost felt like it was the actors who felt uncomfortable. I was like, is he going off script? Am I just supposed to roll with it? Okay, I'll roll with it. And it's
Denzel, just go.
Exactly. It's like, it's Denzel. You don't tell him to fucking slow down. You fucking follow Denzel. But the movie is just so wildly all the fuck over the place. And by the time it ended, you sat there and it's like, was this good? Am I being manipulated? No, this movie fucking sucked. And it makes me not trust Ridley Scott with any movie ever again. The trailer looked good. You M. Night me. Congratulations.
So I didn't love the trailer, honestly.
That's just because they showed the cool shit for the Gladiator scenes. But then they did, and then they had, they played like cool music. I think it was like Kanye music behind it. Like, they did a good job of like making you go, oh yeah. But no, the movie fucking sucked.
I didn't dislike the movie as much as you, but I think the only reason I wasn't disappointed in this movie, because this movie is exactly what I expected it to be. So I was just like, I don't love it, but it's I didn't expect to. So
let's put it this way: I could go into more, but just go back and watch our spoiler chat that we just shot like a month ago, and I will go into full detail of everything I disliked about Gladiator 2.
Also, watch the pitch meeting that just came out for it. It covers it.
Yes. That was great. That was fucking great. What was your next one? I've got 4 more.
I have 4 more as well.
Okay.
My next one will not be.
I got 3 more. My bad. I got 3 more.
Because I think Sean liked this movie, so it won't be on his list. This is one of those. It's not going to be on my worst movie of the year list. But I was disappointed in that, and that's Argylle. Argylle's one that we were super looking forward to. It's directed by Matthew Vaughn. You got Henry Cavill in it, a little bit at least, even though he has a really stupid ass haircut. You got Sam Rockwell, who's always, dependable and solid. Bryce Dallas Howard, who doesn't really even act that much anymore. She's kind of gotten into some directing and things like that. She's in this movie. Great supporting cast with Catherine O'Hara, Sophia Boutella, Ariana DeBose again, John Cena briefly, Samuel L. Jackson, Richard E. Grant. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So all these people in a Matthew Vaughn film, and it's going to be like an action comedy kind of thing in the vein of stuff like his Kingsman movie, stuff like that. And I just did not really care for this movie at all. I think it's another movie that kind of didn't make any sense, even by its own rules. I didn't like, kind of where the story went. There's a lot of things that just didn't make sense. There's bad CGI and a lot of overused green screen. You have they insert all these like needle drops in music just because they think it's a cool place to do it, even if it doesn't actually fit in the movie. and I remember the final act just dragged on like forever. It just kind of kept going on forever. And then at the end, of course, it tries to tie into another movie, which I'm not going to get into that. But it's just Matthew Vaughn's always been kind of hit and miss for me. And I thought that this is going to be a big hit based on, what I had seen of it and the cast and everything. And I mean, there's things to like about it. Sam Rockwell is great in it, as always. And there are scenes that I enjoyed, but overall, I was definitely disappointed. It wasn't near the movie I wanted it to be.
I liked it. I had fun with it. So like, I'm not gonna battle you on it. I understand where you're coming from, and it didn't bother me as much. Much like Gladiator 2. Like, yeah, it just didn't bother me. I enjoyed it for what it was. I had fun with it. So you have 3 left, and I have 3 left.
I have 3 left, and they do not overlap with yours.
How do you know?
Because I know. Go ahead.
Okay. My next one is one that I think you and I were both super, super excited for. And we both didn't hate it. I just think we both expected so much more out of it. And that was Alien Romulus. Fede Alvarez is a director that we both have been very high on with his directorial films, such as like Don't Breathe and Evil Dead. And he does a great job of establishing really good horror and gory horror on top of that. So when we thought he was going to get Alien Romulus, we're like, oh, hell yes. He's going to make us feel like we're back in those first 2 films again, well, especially the first film. And you're right. He does do that. But it basically, a lot of the time, felt like he was taking some of the greatest hits from both those films and throwing them into this movie, even though this movie is between the first and the second film. So him doing callbacks to the stuff that happened in Aliens doesn't make sense, because then it means that this stuff happened beforehand. Such as the robot guy going, "Get away from her, you bitch," when Sigourney's Ripley had never said that before. So that means that Sigourney technically copied it from this guy. It's stupid shit like that. I didn't outright hate this movie. It just, like I said in anticipation video, this is the one that should have went to Hulu, not Prey. I don't think this movie worked as well as a lot of people hoped it worked. We're going to get a sequel. Maybe they'll do better on the next one. I think a lot of this had to do with there wasn't enough fodder for the aliens to mess with. The xenomorphs are barely in the fucking movie. The main villains are the facehuggers, which kudos to Fede. He made the facehuggers terrifying in this movie. There was nothing visually about this film that didn't work. Everything visually was great until
The last
until they went with an alien resurrection type of monster to end the movie, instead of sticking with what works, which is the xenomorphs and the facehuggers. The xenomorphs felt like second tier level bosses in a video game, as like your heavies. It's like, oh shit, we don't want to fight those because they're gonna take most of our life, when they're supposed to be the fucking main bad guys, and you don't utilize them like that. So it didn't, much like how the last couple Ridley Scott alien films were. If the xenomorphs are not the focal point of the film, then I don't give a shit about said film. And that, at the end of the day, that's what Romulus was. The facehuggers should not be the main villains. The xenomorphs should be the main villains. And while it was fine, it never reached the expectations that I think myself and Brian were expecting out of this film.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot about this movie that I did like, but then there was definitely things, especially that final hybrid alien thing, whatever it was, that I didn't like. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. But again, I kind of went in with kind of no expectations, honestly. So it didn't quite make my disappointment list. Next one that did make my list is Mean Girls, aka Mean Girls the Musical. The original 2004 Mean Girls film is great. I love that movie. And I'm a musical guy. I love musicals. This particular musical version of that movie, not so much. Everything in this movie is like just like a pale imitation of the original movie. It's like they, even when they drop in like certain lines that they're like, okay, we have to, you'll go on the checklist of make sure we say this famous line, make sure this. They're just kind of dropped in there with no energy or wit. It just feels like they just like said it because they have to say it, and it doesn't have any of the impact that it had before. It's not funny. It's not striking. It's nothing. The songs are largely forgettable in this movie. So those don't even save it, much less make it worth having made another version of this. The cast, I mean, obviously Tina Fey came back and Tim Meadows came back, and they're fine, but even they seem like inferior to when they played it in the regular movie. The main girl in it, Angry Rice, who you mostly know from things like Nice Guys or small role in the Spider-Man films. I really like her as an actress. I thought this would be like her starring role breakthrough, but it just didn't work because the movie just kind of, I mean, she's not great in it, but I think that's because she didn't have a whole lot to work with in this. But the cast across the board is kind of just inferior to the original. And not across the board. There's one saving grace, and that's I don't know how to pronounce this. Auli'i Cravalho. She was the voice of Moana. She plays Janice Ian in this movie, so like the the friend, and she is phenomenal. She is by far the best singer and performer in this movie. When she has her one main number, it's the best number of the movie. When she sings parts in other songs, she's great in it. She just overshadows everyone else in this movie. But otherwise, this movie I was super looking forward to, completely disappointed.
Yeah, never saw this. I can't add anything to it. I immediately knew I wasn't gonna watch this movie unless it blew Brian away with like, this was so good. I had never had any plans to watch this film, so can't really add much to it. My next movie is another one of those that I think Brian knew exactly the movie we were gonna get, so it didn't disappoint him. Whereas me, I had great expectations and great hope, and it just did not match it. And that was Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Almost in my list. I got cut at the last minute.
We both thoroughly enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife, and that was one of those movies that we went in with low expectations, and it far exceeded our expectations for what it did. So for me, obviously, it's building on that. So my expectations are relatively high. We're going back to New York. We're right where Ghostbusters should be. They're all wearing the suits. They're driving the Ecto-1. The OG cast is going to be there with the new cast. Everything about this was exciting and was going to look cool and everything. And this movie just sequel syndrome times 10. Overbloated cast. There's at least 5 characters that did not belong in the film. You separate the group, which is, I don't know why they always feel like they need to do this. And I know why, it's because of scheduling and shit like that. Brian has mentioned that to me many, many times. But you separate the cast from each other, so that way you're losing that chemistry that we built in the first film. There's so many fucking subplots in this film that are unnecessary or unneeded. There are characters that are making decisions that their characters would never make. McKenna Grace's character, for example. First off, you have Finn Wolfhard, who you didn't use barely at all in the first film. You didn't use him anymore in the second film. And there's this one aspect storyline that you make McKenna Grace do that is so out of her character and so stupid by her character that it would make logical sense if Finn's character was the one that did that, because his character would do that said stupid thing and not McKenna Grace. I love how they all, and I'm sarcastically saying, I love how they were so scared to not let McKenna Grace be gay that they had to teeter around like, oh, she just wants to be friends with the ghost. Where it's like, no, this feels more like she has a crush on this girl ghost, but we can't come out and say it because we don't want to piss people off. There's so much of this movie that just does not work. It was infuriatingly dull and frustrating to watch. Is there a good movie somewhere in that film? Not the way they shot it. No. Could they redo it and make it better? Sure. Do I want to see that? No. You've lost all your goodwill. Do I want to see another Ghostbusters movie? Yes. Just with a whole new fucking cast. You can bring back Paul Rudd. But this movie greatly fucking disappointed me. There was very little redeeming in this film, and it took all the goodwill that Afterlife gave us and fucking flushed it down the drain. Just completely disappointed. And you didn't have any reaction to it because you expected it to suck. What's your next one?
So, my next one is Deadpool and Wolverine. I wanted to love this movie. I wanted it to be the best of the Deadpool movies. I wanted to love every minute of it. I wanted to live up to the marketing and the, everything that they built up to it with Hugh Jackman and Deadpool, and the whole relationship they built up with over the past, whatever 10 years or whatever it's been since they started their, feud kind of thing going on. And I was super excited about this movie, but I'm watching this movie and I was just disappointed with every decision they made in this movie in terms of plot, in terms of character, and I'm just watching this movie, and as I watch it, kind of like, and I don't hate this movie. This is one of those that I still enjoyed enough parts of this movie that it's like a net positive for me. There are definitely jokes that work. There are action sequences that work. There are some of the cameos that work. But there's so much that doesn't work for me. I don't like the TVA or the whole multiverse thing. That's off the top. You need to do away with this shit. It's stupid. It's ruining kind of all these movies that they're trying to do this whole thing. I didn't like where they took his character, where he's like, now he's a car salesman. He's having this crisis of, his self-worth and things like that. They had cheap looking CGI stunt doubles. They chose to not bring back Cable and Domino, but they bring back Shatterstar, and they give Peter a bigger role, who I don't really like Peter. I didn't like a lot of the cameos. I didn't like the Logan variants they use. Well, several of those look stupid, like the short one and the future one. Those just look ridiculous. It didn't. I mean, they could have made cool alternate versions of him. Those weren't it. I didn't like Cassandra Nova as the villain. I didn't like the cosplay recastings of a lot of the supporting characters that look like the characters in the background of Space Jam, the way they were. I didn't like that they finally let Channing Tatum be Gambit, and they decided instead to make this cartoonish version of it instead of letting him be a cool version of it. It's just a wasted opportunity for a good version. The character motivations, where Wolverine just didn't happen to be home when something happened, so now his life is ruined, and Deadpool just decides that he wants to matter and wants to be proud of. There's like lame character motivations. The climax was predictable, and Guardians already did it in their movie. The ending contradicts itself with who can and can't stay in different timelines that they're from. It's overall, there's just so much about it that weighs it down, that disappointed me with where they went with this movie, that it's my least favorite of the Deadpool trilogy by a good margin.
I'm going to be talking about this in a different video, so I'm just going to let all that go.
Yeah, I know it. I know most people seem to just love this movie, and I wish I felt the same way. But it's just like I didn't like where they went with any of it. It's like there were parts of it that entertained me, and I think it's still in my top 20. I think maybe I rewatched it, and it's been dropping down. It's been dropping down my list, and so it's like I still enjoyed enough of it, but it's definitely disappointing. So there it is.
I'm going to be talking about this in a different video later, so I'm not even going to, say anything about it right now. My last one, or was that your last one?
No, I have one more.
You have one more. Okay. My last one, Brian's not going to have any input on it because Brian hasn't seen it, nor did Brian care about the first one, so he had no interest in the second one. Joker Folie do. I have never, and correct me if I'm wrong, have you ever seen a director come back to do a sequel of a film that was nominated for Best Picture, won awards in the Oscars, mainly for Joaquin Phoenix, come back to do a sequel and decides, you know what? Fuck this movie. I'm going to burn this whole fucking thing to the ground. And y'all going to watch me do it, and you're all going to pay me to do it. Has there ever been a director with that kind of douchebag ego? Has there? Has there ever been a director
that I'm aware of, and I kind of think he's just like, you know what? The check cleared. Now I can make whatever I want. Screw you guys.
Yeah, I mean, like he can come out and try to defend what he shot and what he did all he wants, but the bottom line is, dude fucking quit as soon as the movie got released and fucking left the studio. He knew exactly what he was doing. I don't know how he got everyone on fucking board with what he did. This dude was basically like, oh, you guys love Arthur Fleck? You guys love this character called the Joker? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot a whole movie to show you how fucking stupid you all are for praising this character. Newsflash, dipshit. We aren't praising Arthur Fleck, or maybe some people are. I wasn't. As like, oh my God, he was in the right. He deserved it. Joker's a good guy. Blah, blah. No, we were praising the amazing performance of Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker. I know you're not a Joaquin fan. I get it. This is not being talked to you, Brian. Joaquin put on a great performance as Arthur Fleck. And you decided to come back and do this movie, spend about a good 50% of this film just reaccounting the events of the first film. Why? Because you didn't know much of a script. So it's like, hey, did you guys watch The Joker? You did? Well, guess what? We're going to pretend that you didn't. And we're going to read back and show you scenes from The Joker just in case you guys fucking forgot it. This is not a TV show. We don't need a previously on aspect of this film to remember that we watched this movie. Chances are we fucking watched Joker before we watched Joker Folie Do. Thanks for making us rewatch the same shit over again, Tom or Todd. Then you cast Lady Gaga as Harleen Quinzel, not Harley Quinn. Or they call her Lee in this because you can't call her Harley because then that makes it real. And then we're gonna make this a fucking musical. Guess what? Just because Joaquin Phoenix can sing Johnny Cash does not mean he can sing everything well. Because he can't sing for shit in this movie. You only casted Lady Gaga in this because she could sing. It's not for her acting ability, because if it was, you would have given her some fucking scenes to act in. Guess what you didn't do? Let her act. You fucking basically just brought her on to say a few lines and then sing. And guess what? None of those scenes were worth a shit because it was the musical aspect of the movie that fucking sucked about this goddamn film. Just whenever you had a moment that you could have made this movie good, or you could have made this movie interesting, there's at least 6 different points in this film where you could have turned the page and actually done something with this film. You said, nope, because I don't want to make a good movie. I want everyone to hate Arthur Fleck. And I want everyone to hate the Joker film. And I want everyone to go back and look at the first film and go, yeah, no, the sequel ruined this movie for me. Because guess what you did? There's one great scene in this film. And even that one is towing a fine line because they're making Joker do a foghorn leghorn fucking routine in this. But heaven forbid, in spite of that, it is a phenomenal scene done by, and I'm going to have to find his name because I'm going to fucking forget it. Jesus, where's his name? Lee Gill, who plays Gary Puddles, who's the little person. That scene with him and Arthur is one of the best scenes of the year. It is a phenomenal scene between those two around a steaming pile of dog shit surrounded through the rest of this film. There's nothing great about this film. You got Brandon Gleeson, Lady Gaga, you got Joaquin, who's not bad in this movie at all, but there's only one scene in this movie where he's actually Joker. Every other scene in this movie, he's just Arthur Fleck. And all the other Joker scenes are in his head and he's singing, and no one fucking wants to watch the Joker sing. And there's so many points where you could have done something great with this film, and it's just utter fucking bullshit. It visually, cinematography wise, it looked good. So you made you polished the shit, and you made the shit look clean, but it's still shit. And then the way the movie ends, going, Arthur Fleck was never the Joker. He was just the starting point, and the Joker was actually the guy at the end. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you, Todd Phillips. You are going to make it very hard for me to ever want to watch another movie you fucking make. Not that you made a lot of great movies. You made the Hangover films, which the first one was the only good one, and you made Old School. Good job. But this was the epitome of telling everyone who loved your first film that you got nominated for to fuck off. That is what you did. And it's hard to respect a guy who basically told everyone that was praising him for the great job he did in the first time around to go fuck themselves. And that's what Todd Phillips did in this movie. And I fucking can't stand it. And I know you don't have a fucking opinion because you never saw Joker fully do. But yeah.
I did, actually.
Did you watch it? Because you told me you never watched it.
No, I went and saw it because I think it was opening weekend because I was basically bored and I have AMC A-list, so it wasn't costing me anything. So I'm like, fine, I'll go check it out. And it wasn't good.
The Gary Puddles scene was amazing, though, right?
Actually, I'm going to put it in my most surprising list. We'll be talking about later. So.
Yeah, fuck you.
So my final one is Wicked. Talked about one of the highest grossing movies of the year. Why not talk about another one of them?
Oh wow.
Wicked is not the worst film of the year. It's nowhere near the worst film of the year. But it's just, but we're talking about disappointments, and that has to do with expectations versus my feelings when I saw it. And this is the biggest gap. I wanted to like this movie. I like I said, I love musicals. I think John M. Chu is a great director, especially when he's doing musical, whether it be, even like when he did like Step Up 2 and 3. I thought he does a great job directing those for what they were, and then he does In the Heights, which how I feel about In the Heights. I love In the Heights. I think it's a great movie, and the direction is one of the best things about it. And I see this movie, and the performances in it are all fine, but I find the story to be pretty thin. I find the songs to be largely forgettable. There are a few great songs. There's a couple great songs. It's very hit and miss, because like for every one great song, it seems like there's one or two that are just like just filler, just kind of killing time. And I'm sure people who have seen the musical love these songs and said no, they had to be in the movie. And it's like I just found a lot of them to be kind of boring and skippable. Honestly, if I ever watched it at home, it'd be like that the one scene in the Heights that we always skip.
the Oscar bait song.
Yeah. I think the look of the film even I thought was almost a little too artificial. I know they're creating this land of Oz, but the whole time it just felt painfully aware that we're like on a movie set, and it just didn't feel like a lived-in world. But mostly it really was just kind of the story of it all. It's just like, I know they broke it into two parts. I don't feel like it needed to be broken into two parts. I think they could have told their story. Now I haven't seen the second part, so maybe I'll feel differently after I see that. But it's just, this is a movie that I wanted to love. I expected this to be in like my top 3 movies of the year. It's been my most anticipated for a couple of years now, because it's another one that's kept changing their mind when they wanted to put it out. And I expected to love this movie, and I didn't love it. And it hurts me to say that, because I was so rooting for this film, rooting for the people in this film, rooting for John M. Chu, and it just wasn't anywhere near what I wanted it to be. That's what it is. I have no hate or vitriol. This isn't like yours. This is just me feeling sad.
Much like Deadpool Wolverine, this is going to be on another list of mine later, so I'm not gonna basically add anything.
Hilarious how these tables have turned.
Yes, because like I said in our anticipated, literally a year ago, Brian was like, "Wicked, Wicked, Wicked." I don't give a fuck about Wicked, and now it's me going, "Wicked, Wicked, Wicked." Man, Wicked fucking sucked.
I never said it fucking sucked.
And no, you don't think it sucks, but he's like, Wicked's a huge disappointment. And I'm like, Wicked, and it's like, yeah, just how it flipped, and it's nuts. But those are our most disappointing films of this year. We hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, we're going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Let us know what your most disappointed films of the year are. Were there any of the ones that we mentioned here, or were there ones that we hadn't mentioned? Let us know in the comments. Out right now, we have our very Movie Crusaders Christmas episode where Brian and I go over different Christmas genres and give our picks for those specific ones, like our favorite movie Santa, our favorite Christmas action film, Christmas horror film, all that stuff for the holiday season. Also, our most anticipated films of 2025, where we go over, how many was it? How many movies did we talk about?
There was 25 on one list and 20 on the other, so 45 total.
Yeah, so we talked about 45 different movies coming out in 2025 to get you guys ready for the new year. Coming up next, you've gotten through the disappointing. Now we've got the most surprising, and then we got the best and the worst of 2025. So plenty of videos coming up, as well as our Movie Crusaders award show coming up out later in the month, as well as everything else coming out through 2025. So we hope you guys stick around with us. And until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrew. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.